practice. Christian, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. And Katie, I really need to get our doctoral researchers intrigued in the idea of installing a reproducibility group in Düsseldorf. So I'd like to share some ideas on on the lessons we learned at the University of Düsseldorf here in Germany. And therefore I need to maybe with the background of same but different, to maybe introduce some aspects with a specific background at our university as well as the German research integrity system. Then I will, like Leanne, show a little bit the bottom of the iceberg of the development we did at our university when we talk about institutional changes. And then I'd like to introduce what's the idea of our research integrity course, or the topic is usually called in Germany good scientific or good research practice, and which lessons did we learn. So short figure of the University of Düsseldorf to give you an idea. So we are one of the younger universities, only founded more closely 50 years ago, from a medical academy. So we have on one campus 5 faculties: mathematics and natural sciences, medicine, arts and humanities, faculty of law, as well as economy. And so we have a huge university hospital and a university and state library on our campus. And in addition to that, we have roughly 37,000 students and roughly 4,200 doctoral researchers. To be aware what's maybe a little bit different in the German academic system is that typically in Germany, the supervisors are later on also the examiners of a thesis. Yeah, so there's a huge amount of power on the side of the doctoral supervisors. At our faculty or in our university, we established on the faculty level several graduate academies which are supporting the doctoral research area, and in the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, it's IGRID, where I'm coming from, and we have colleagues in the Faculty of Medicine as well as in the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. And on the university-wide level, we are collaborating with Juno, which is focusing on the postdoctoral level. But we work as a joint association as Heine Research Academies. The background in Germany is that already established in 1998, there was published by the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, which is maybe comparable a little bit to the British Research Councils, the biggest funding agency in Germany, the Code of Conduct for safeguarding good research practice. This was a reaction on a very prominent case of research misconduct in Germany. And the current version now contains 19 guidelines, explanations which define a professional ethos. And there is a third level of the code planned to be published on the web pages of the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, including discipline-specific information. This code is meant to supplement already existing norms and regulations by public authorities. And why this is a very important issue is that this code has to be implemented by all of the German universities and research institutions in form of binding regulations. So the first published version in 1998 was installed in regulations within 5 years in nearly all German universities. And the current revision from last year has to be implemented until the end of July next year. So there's currently a high dynamic in German universities, but leading to a situation where nearly every German university has a quite close, similar background in regulations on the topic of research integrity. So, but however, the question is, we have a saying in Germany which well, if you translate this to English, it says something like paper is patient, yeah, meaning that if things are printed, the question is whether they come into life. And I will would like to share some insights from this iceberg development we had done at our university. So the first version of the code was really installed in 2002 when the Senate of our university enacted the rules on the principles for safeguarding good research practice at our university. And then, like I was told by several colleagues at German university, a long time nothing happened because it was published and then it was to be found at some web pages of the university. And the typical question when we asked people, do you know about these rules, was for a long time, well, what are these rules about, what they are good for? At our university, it needed roughly 5 to 8 years that some doctoral research programs realized that people weren't aware of these regulations because they implemented a self-commitment towards the rules of our university as part of the agreements on supervision or for stipend approvals. So this led to a development that when our research academy was founded, that we also included the self-commitments to the rules, but also decided to implement courses on good research practice at that time. So the first courses were started in 2010 in Germany, or specifically at our faculty in German as well as in English language, which became mandatory for our members. And we directly connected this to confidential conflict counseling for all of our early stage researchers and doctoral supervisors. So this is an important aspect. We do this for the complete faculty, not only for the members. At the same time, at the Faculty of Medicine, our sister academy was founded. And then in 2011, a lot of movement came into this development the moment a very prominent case raised up at the University of Bayreuth, connected to, maybe you've heard about this case, our former Minister of Defense, who seemed to plagiarize, or who had plagiarized his doctoral thesis at that time. And the follow-up discourse all over Germany led to serious considerations also at our university. So this led, for example, at our faculty, the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, to a revision of the doctorate regulation that the course we studied already in 2010 became now mandatory for all doctoral researchers of the complete faculty. Also, the medical faculty decided on revisions of the doctorate regulations that the membership or in the medical research academy became obligatory for every doctoral researcher of the medical faculty. In the Faculty of Arts and Humanities in January 2012, our sister academy was founded, Philgrad, and they also installed courses for doctoral members. And the first courses took place in May 2012. And at that time, a very prominent case in Germany, or second very prominent case raised up, unfortunately, at the Faculty of Arts and Humanity at our university. It was connected to the doctoral degree of the at that time current Minister of Research and Education in Germany, which you can imagine spread over all the media German-wide. And this follow-up led to very serious considerations at all levels and all faculties of our university. However, many of the developments already started with the first case at the University of Bayreuth. For example, our Faculty of Law decided on rules on good research practice for the Faculty of Law, and in a revision of the doctorate regulation, an education in these rules became mandatory for all doctoral researchers. So at our faculty, we started at that time already a pilot study in bachelor's studies, because we thought not only installing this, this important topic at the doctorate level, but already bringing in the basis into this one of the bachelor studies. And it was implemented in an obligatory module in the study in our big study course in biology. In November 2012, already the first courses in good research practice took place at the medical faculty, voluntary for doctoral supervisors, but obligatory for medical doctoral researchers. And in December, the Senate of our university started to revise the university-wide rules on good research practice. So then, in the beginning of 2013, there was the start of regular good research practice courses also at the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. And we then joined as Heine Research Academies in April, and especially agreed on joint quality standards of all these courses at our university. In July 2013, a faculty-wide discussion at the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences took place on the revision of the doctoral regulation, where all doctoral researchers of the faculty, but all supervisors and also the members of the Faculty Council were able to participate in this discussion. And even then, at that time, in November, the Faculty of Business Administration and Economics made a revision of the doctorate regulations where the instructions of the central university rules became mandatory for doctoral researchers at this faculty. The revision at the Faculty of Mathematics and Natural Sciences, sorry, this is a mistake, implemented a supervision or mandatory supervision agreement. Yearly progress reports, independent mentor became obligatory, and ending that in the end of 2000, or in February 2014, the revised rules on good research practice were published by the Senate. Finally, this is the last part. The President's Office of our university initiated a university-wide discussion and consolidation process over all faculties on good research practice standards and quality measures in doctoral education. So the current state right now is that in all five faculties, we now have either a mandatory course on good research practice or mandatory instructions for doctoral researchers installed. All faculties have a written agreement on supervision installed in the doctorate regulations. 4 or 5 faculties have regular written progress reports. 4 or 5 faculties have an independent second supervisor or mentor installed in the doctorate process. The Heine Research Academies offer courses on a regular basis. So at the complete university, we meanwhile have roughly 45 courses which give the ability for 800 to 900 participants. There are joint agreements already with collaborating research institutions on our good research practice courses. And meanwhile, since we now give these courses more than 10 years long, there's an increasing demand all over Germany on courses for research integrity and good research practice, and we are meanwhile exporting this all over the country. Our courses are at the big 3 faculties: Mathematics and Natural Sciences, Arts and Humanities, and the Faculty of Medicine, linked to confidential conflict counseling or conflict coaching. And at the medical faculty, even good research practice courses are meanwhile compulsory for the habilitation, which is a specific additional qualification after the doctoral degree to become a professor in Germany, and for the appointment for extraordinary professors. And an increasing transparent implementation of good research practice as a topic of bachelor and master modules is observable at our university. Due to the fact that now there is a new code in place, the Senate of our university was one of the first in Germany to enact a revised version. And here in the Code of Conduct of 2019 is already implemented. And it's additionally more than 17 additional relevant recommendations and guidelines have been considered for this revision process. And this new regulation will now lead to new developments, which are already foreseeable. There will be a more stronger focus on the prevention of misconduct and in immediate, if possible, a correction of mistakes, not the main focus on punishing misconduct. So it's more a shift of paradigm. It's more on strengthening and increasing the professionalization of the ombuds system connected to good research practice in Germany. And at least one ombudsperson will in the future now come from the non-professorial staff, academic staff. There is a transparent implementation of good research practice as topic of all study programs at our university demanded by the central regulation. And there are relevant consolidations and revisions of rules and regulations for study, examinations of study courses, doctoral education, and even habilitation, also demanded by this central regulation. Also, we plan an establishment of an event series deepening research integrity related topics for all career levels up to the professor level, and an implementation of good research practice as integral part of our welcome culture. Because what we usually observe is that we have persons in our courses, and we ask them, did you throughout your academic career visited courses throughout your studies or in your doctorate on the topic of good research practice or research integrity? There's only a limited number of persons saying yes, transparently. Somehow there's still this belief in the academic system that this knowledge somehow over the time diffuses into the persons, and that they get a really conscious understanding of this. But we offer our courses as a chance to make a checklist at specific points of the career. So that's the main idea behind this. So what is the idea or the background of our course? So the time point for the doctoral researchers levels or for the postdoc level is ideally at the beginning of the doctoral research phase, or as a brush up for a newly arriving postdoctoral researcher. It's meant as a one-day seminar if we do it in presence. So as an online course now, due to the Corona situation, we make 2 half days of online course. It's a seminar including discussions, reflections, but also exercise phases. The general concept is meanwhile focused mainly on the curriculum, which is recommended by the German Research Ombudsman, which is a similar commission like the UK Research Integrity Office. And we focused on a condensation of all the relating modules. So this is the curriculum. So there's a revised version from 2019. And the central curriculum recommended by the Ombudsman for die Wissenschaft was already published. The first was published in 2009. The seminar focuses on all relevant guidelines of the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschafts Code of Conduct, and we have specific complementations by additional contents. For example, complemental topics are basic in research theory or theory of science, research ethics, and what is very important to us, how to deal and to prevent conflict. So also here, communication is the key. There is a specific introduction to the rules and the procedures to all the important contact points at the participating institutions. So of our university, but also if we have doctoral researchers from collaborating institutions, we point out to the according persons available there at these institutions. Duration is about 8 hours or 2 times 4 hours and these courses are open to 12 to 24 participants. So, and we use dialogic inputs, participant-specific case studies or case discussions, and single group works. It's more interactive seminar. We have possible variations for even longer courses, so where we can supplement by topics like theory of research, ethics, or specific case studies we would let perform by the participants. The content is based on the responsible conduct and professional ethos of a researcher, research ethical principles, basic international but also national recommendations and regulations, And we also have a look on the dark side. Definitions, elements of offense, but examples, concrete examples, but also did we discuss the possible reasons and consequences connected to research misconduct. We talk about general responsibilities, quality management in research, design, documentation and data management, providing public access authorship and the publication process, what challenges could be connected to this, where could be possible areas of conflict. We also have to discuss on supervision, the expectations, roles and responsibilities connected to this, organizational culture, collaboration, communication, dealing with conflict. What are the procedures in case of suspicion? What are the relevant contact persons? And we discuss important specific responsibilities. Specific responsibilities for every researcher, but sometimes also for specific research areas like the research on animals, humans, or if people do surveys, interviews, or work with data privacy relevant personal data. For all of our courses, this is directly connected to the confidential conflict counseling where we are referring to. So what lessons did we learn? Initially, when courses become compulsory, people will not be happy. So we saw this in the average score of our course evaluation. It dropped really by at least 1 mark the moment the course became mandatory. And there were a huge increase of general complaints, in particular that the courses became mandatory. It was a little bit like shooting the messenger. So, however, the good thing is that after 2 to 3 years, there was a re-improvement of the average evaluation, and it's now even frequently higher than before. And the general complaints and questionings of the compulsiveness have really virtually vanished. And currently, there are more frequent feedback like this is an important topic. The specific subtopics became much more clear, and I will change aspects of my conduct in the future. So meaning that people will get used to this. There is an additional thing which some other trainer already reported, and Gommel, Neuter, and Spunholz described this already in 2015. That they observed in several research integrity trainings variations of 1 or more of the following questions. Why didn't our supervisor tell us about the regulations? Do our supervisor know about these regulations, or are there any workshops on this topic for our supervisors? So lesson 2 we learned at Düsseldorf was do not underestimate doctoral researchers as possible multipliers. Because initially we observed this similar questions in our courses, but these questions really decreased. It seemed that somehow the knowledge was really transferred also into the institute. So it's in Düsseldorf, it's now a really rare observation, but if we give this course at our institute, other institutions, we really still observe this. Mainly those are connected to previous educations at Düsseldorf from other institutions. And much more frequently, doctoral researchers now report that they are already making a lively discussion at the institutes or working units and groups. So, meaning the doctoral researchers might contribute to the distribution of the knowledge over time. So, and the last lesson we learned is that with time, an impact on institutional culture is possible, meaning that we observe that doctoral and postdoctoral researchers and supervisors are increasingly aware of confidential conflict counseling. And for us, especially at conflict counseling, important development is that they now seek advice at much earlier conflict stages so that they can really change aspects. And doctoral researchers and supervisors appear to be less challenged when they are uncertain about aspects of research integrity topics. So they seek advice much more frequently. So, and what is a very individual observation is that we're making initial discussion at our courses. What do you understand or what is from your perspective, the definition of research integrity or good research practice? that meanwhile, over the years, participants generally show a much more profound understanding of these topics than in the years before. And for everyone who is going to convince other people, after some year, you are even able to show this by data, because, and this is my last slide, there is a German-wide survey, so-called National Academics Panel Study, where doctoral researchers all over Germany are interviewed. And there was one question: are you familiar with the regulations on good research practice? So meaning that the diffusion seems to work. So this is these are the data from all participating German universities without our university. There, 87% said yes, which is already a high number. But at the University of Düsseldorf, we are there with 95%. And even at our faculty, so we started first with this type of course, we are with 98%. So most hopefully the 2% are people who recently started their doctoral degree. And the question, did your university support you in complying with the good rules of good research practice? The German-wide picture is that 64% say yes. At our university, it's even up to 80%, and at our faculty, 84%. So I'm quite happy with this development, and I'm now happy to take your question. Thank you very much for your interest.
Christian, thank you very much. It was fascinating. It's both interesting in itself to see how the courses work and how they fit into a broader ethos of improving research culture and the effects that it's had. We've had a couple of questions so far. The first noted a very interesting presentation, said, have there been resource issues in providing mandatory training for all students, and how is attendance monitored?
So resource issues is that we, of course, it costs a lot of work. The different faculties, they have different strategies in dealing with this. So for example, we at our faculty, a colleague of mine, two colleagues of mine and me, we are educated trainers, and I'm also an educated coach next to this. So at our faculty, we give the course on ourselves by internal trainers. The Faculty of Medicine and the Faculty of, they hire an external trainer, so they pay for this. Well, maybe they are a little bit better funded than we are. And the Faculty of Arts and Humanities, they make a collaboration of an internal and external trainer. But there was a high commitment by the faculties in giving enough of the resources for that. The second question is, of course, there was a huge amount of work initially because we have to work this big pile of doctoral researchers. Now we at our faculty, we have roughly once per month one course, which is really possible of doing so.
Thank you. Does the course get assessed in any formal way, we've been asked?
Assessed in which meaning? So assessed by an external source?
I think, you know, do students, I'm not quite sure, perhaps the question is clarified, but I mean, for example, if someone carries out the course, is it simply that they are marked on whether they have completed the course or not? No, how much they've understood and that sort of thing?
And no, for the doctoral researcher, of course, there's no examination afterwards. Of course, it's more because we are talking a lot about effective teaching objectives. Yeah, we are not talking about cognitive teaching objectives. So it's more that we need trainers who are able to convince to really to hand over that this is an important topic. And in the end, it's so we see these type of courses as one integral part of conflict prevention of our university. So, and it most hopefully helps in preventing either on one hand, of course, misconduct, but also in preventing, in encouraging people. So it's about getting people aware of these issues, but especially at the doctoral research level, also to empower, because if the people know about what are also their rights and what is the usual practice, they are more able to communicate about this. And this is something which also leads to further developments. We have at some course, of course, for example, I'm currently doing this at the bachelor's degree in biology. So yeah, there we have an examination in the end. So people will have to write a test, and there are also questions connected to good research practice. And people have to prove this in our faculty when they apply for the examination at the doctoral phase. But there's no real test.
Thank you.
For doctoral researchers.
What part, that's fascinating, thank you. What part does online training play in any of your training? But obviously during the pandemic situation, I expect it plays a great deal, but prior to the pandemic, was online methods used at all?
Yeah, we were struggling initially a little bit in whether we want to do this course online or we want to directly see the reaction of the persons. But actually, we had to change a little bit. Of course, some of our exercises we usually do at this type of course are not possible online. But we meanwhile complemented this, and we received quite good feedback on that. So that this also works out on an online basis. But however, you need to implement or to plan in more time for online. Because sitting 8 hours in front of a screen is is torture for all participants. Yeah, but there are other in Germany. There are other universities, for example, which have other online courses which are more at the level of raising awareness towards the topics, but they are not real training courses and discussion courses on this.
Thank you, that's very interesting. We've had a number of questions about the conflict counselling and training that HHU offers, and questions asking how this works, who does the training, how you found it to support research practice, and also as a particular question, have you found it suitable for working through disputes over authorship and attribution of research projects, a very common cause of disputes?
So, sorry, I'm not sure whether I got this. Okay,
sorry. So the question that people are asking for more information about the conflict counselling and training, how it works, but also whether it's been suitable for dealing with disputes over authorship in academic publications.
Yeah. So the idea of our conflict counseling is more supporting people in finding solutions by themselves or finding the right strategies to communicate to the person they are in conflict in. Sometimes we also offer, but then both parties need to agree, neutral conflict moderation, because we are not the judges. We are trying to solve the conflict. But therefore, it's important that they come at an early stage of conflict escalation, or when people have concerns. However, of course, some authorship disputes can be a frequent topic in these conflict counselings. There we can refer to the rules and regulations and how this can be esteemed. But in the end, if the conflict escalates, and especially when we are talking about topics of good research practice or possible misconduct, then, for example, our conflict counseling ends and we have to refer the persons to the ombudspersons for research integrity, which have their expertise there. But this is already perceived as a higher level of conflict escalation. So therefore, we try to make an offer at a lower threshold. Yeah, so that people, at the moment where people can still solve this without running into a big conflict. So this is the general idea behind this. And sometimes it's even helpful. So I got some reports in the past from doctoral researchers just to inform about the regulations and to hand them over the documents so that they can show it and convince people. Because sometimes even very experienced researchers, they have a gut feeling of what makes an authorship, but this is quite clearly defined. Yeah, a much more difficult question is the order of authorship, because there we have a huge amount of different disciplinary cultures, and what is suggested by good research or by the rules and regulations is that they make a decision in good time and they make a clarification in good time. So like Leanne said, communicate. Yeah, and this is what is important for us. We constantly tell our doctoral researcher, people talk in advance, talk about your expectations. the majority of conflicts result from unspoken expectations on both sides. So, and this is especially due to, true in the fact of authorship.
Thank you. No, that's the central message training that we do as well. That if people talk, the more you talk about things in advance and listen to what other people are saying, that certainly reduces the impact of problems later on. I think one final question. Jill Boyle asks, once the mandatory course has been completed, does it need to be repeated? Is there some sort of refresher training every so often, or is the course done once and then that's it?
Yeah, there's a huge discussion on that. So I come from biology, and what people in life science fear the most is the yearly security instruction. What I fear the most is that good research practice gets something like this. So if they have to really yearly refresh this knowledge or something like this. From our perspective, there are specific points at an academic career or education where it makes sense. Yeah, there is some areas need to be installed at the bachelor's level or at the master's level. Some things, for example, like authorship topics, you need to have an understanding on how is the publication process. So this is important at the doctoral level or master's to doctoral level. And in Germany, at least, and I think it's similar in the UK, that a majority of doctoral researchers are also contributing to teaching or co-supervision. And at that point, people already take over additional responsibilities, because after the doctorate, they can get postdocs, they get much more responsibility for co-supervising other persons. So then I think the doctorate level is at least one point where it should be deepened a lot more. But there could be additional topics which get more and more important. We try to fix this with this specific topics events we want to tackle, because, for example, what are currently very dynamic topics are research data management. We will have to look a lot about what are the challenges from digitalization occurring next. We have to talk about security issues of research. And this is something, of course, which is a huge development where I think it could be also very interesting and important topics for very senior researchers.
I keep getting to on mute, so I'm familiar with you. So thank you very much. It's been very helpful presentations from you. It was fascinating to hear about your experiences and, as I said, the very real and tangible effects such training can have, especially when carried out with many cohorts of researchers over many years. And it's clear that great progress has been made.